Yo, what's up? We got Fahrenheit 451 today. I just reread this after probably 10 years. I read it as a freshman in high school and definitely did not get it and didn't really care for it that much. The only thing I really remembered was there was like a robotic dog in it and it had to do something with burning of books, you know? And I'm sure most everyone was forced to read this in high school, which now reading it as an adult, I feel like it's probably too early to read freshman year of high school. I know I didn't catch like a lot of these references and, you know, just everything he's talking about. And plus, I mean, I didn't really have much sci-fi experience, I guess. But but yeah, so I mean, coming back to it, this is probably one of my favorite books now. Like definitely one of my favorite like sci-fi books of all time, if not my favorite sci-fi book. But I still haven't read much sci-fi. But if you haven't read Ray Bradbury before, his prose kind of takes some getting used to. At first, I didn't really like it, but once it kind of clicked, I was starting to enjoy it. I'm not really one for flowery prose. I kind of like the more straightforward authors like Steinbeck and Hunter S. Thompson and stuff like that, but this was a nice change of pace, and I ended up really enjoying it. It's only like 160 pages or so, like half of this is just like extras in the back. But a little bit about this, if you haven't read it or are wanting to read it. What did I do with that? Oh, I guess I don't need it. But so about the author Ray Bradbury, he was born in 1920 and passed in 2012. He's mainly known for his sci-fi. If you haven't heard of Fahrenheit 451, I'd be kind of surprised. This and Brave New World in 1984 seem like the main dystopian books that everyone talks about, that is always on discussion points, and I've read all three of them now. Now that I've been an adult, and I have to say, out of those three, I definitely like this one the best. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars, and the other ones I gave like a 4 out of 5 stars. And then it was probably 1984, and then Brave New World for me. But he was born in Illinois, moved to LA when he was like 14, and went to high school in LA and kind of grew up around Hollywood and all of that. He's mainly known for this book, obviously, The Martian Chronicles, Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is right here, which I'm currently reading, and then Dandelion Wine, which I plan on getting to most of those. I don't know if I'll read Martian Chronicles, but I might give it a try after a while. But yeah, and I'm really enjoying Something Wicked This Way Comes right now, and he's becoming one of my favorite writers, and which was kind of unexpected. I tried reading Something Wicked like a year ago, or not even that long ago, probably like 8 months ago, and I couldn't really get through it. But one of my buddies who I actually borrowed this from, who suggested Steinbeck for me, who's like my favorite author now, told me to give him another try. And so I went ahead and read Fahrenheit 451, and then once I got his style, I really started liking what he was doing. I decided to try coming back to this, and the audiobook didn't help a lot. Both of those are free on YouTube if you wanted to check out the audiobooks. There's a few different versions. But that also helped with his prose, and I think his is one of those that's better to be read out loud. And I was even like reading it out loud to myself to get like the rhythm of it. So if you're having any problems, I would suggest that and taking it slow. It's not one of those like you have to read his writing slow. Like you can't just like speed through it. It's like you have to take your time with it, which I like. So, and then moving on, so a little bit more about him. he began writing after he was rejected from the military for bad eyesight. He started publishing sci-fi stories in like magazines and like pulp mags. And then from that he ended up joining the L.A. Sci-Fi Society, meeting Robert A. Heinlein. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but he wrote A Stranger in a Strange Land, and if you know anything about sci-fi, that's one of the big classics, as well as this one. And he met other writers there, and then by the time he was 24, he was a full-time writer. And then one of his stories was picked up by Truman Capote, who wrote Breakfast at Tiffany's and In Cold Blood, which I actually have a copy of that. He's like a famous editor and writer, and that story he picked up ended up winning the O. Henry Award. So he started off pretty quickly and is now known as one of the best American writers of the 20th century. So, a little bit about this, if you don't know, it's a dystopian novel, sci-fi, obviously, and about this was originally called The Fireman, because it's about a firefighter, but instead of putting out fires, he starts them, and instead of spraying water out of a hose, they spray kerosene. And anybody that's caught with books gets their house burned down and everything destroyed that they own. And so he's part of these firefighters or firemen that do that. So, and at the beginning of the book, he runs into the main guy's name is Montag. And at the beginning of the book, he runs into his neighbor's daughter, and she starts asking him all these questions, and it starts like kind of unlocks something in his brain where he starts questioning everything that he's doing and wondering why he is doing what he's doing, and from there, and then she kind of I don't know if this is a spoiler, but she just kind of disappears at the beginning of the book, and then from there he's just like wondering what's going on, and that kind of sets the spark of the story. And obviously there's a big message in there, and it becomes philosophical, and honestly it was just a really enjoyable read. And so it goes from him wondering why he's burning books to him taking a book home from one of his calls or whatever, and to go burn all these books in this person's house. And this lady decides she would rather die with all of her books than live without them. And this really shakes him to his core, and he doesn't really understand why someone would die for words on pages. And he's like, and he's grown up all of his life thinking that books are bad, and that they just like make people crazy, and it makes people's lives unhappy because they question things and they learn how to critically think, essentially. And so between the neighbor's daughter and this lady sacrificing herself because she doesn't want to live without her books, it makes him really curious, and so he starts taking books, and from there things ensue. But but honestly, it was a fantastic book. The ending was even like, I didn't really know where it was going at all, because I didn't really remember anything, but the more it progressed, the more I enjoyed it. And then the ending just like, I thought was like the perfect ending, and it wasn't what I was expecting at all. It's been a really long time since I've read some really good endings, and so I definitely suggest this if you haven't read it, and really take your time with it. If you're younger and you're having to read this for school or anything, I would suggest following along with the audiobook and watching some YouTube videos of people talking about it. I'm sure there's podcasts out there too that people mention this book, and really just dive into it, and not just half-ass it, which I tried to do in high school, and then I didn't get it, and then everything. But I mean, he references a lot of like famous like philosophers and writers, and if you don't really know who like these people are or like what they stood for, which I didn't at the time, then I understand how it's hard to understand this. But I'm going to read you one little passage to give you a sense of what you're getting into, and then that'll be it. So from page 150, we're allotted a little space on earth, and that we survive in that wilderness, that we can take back what it has given. As easily as blowing its breath on us or sending the sea to us, we are not so big. When we forget how close the wilderness is in the night, my grandpa said, someday it will come in and get us, for we will have forgotten how terrible and real it can be. And so, so after that, I'll leave you to it, and yeah, go check it out. Thanks.